Major funding for these programs is provided by the CUNY TV Foundation, Capital One Bank, Geneva Burns, Gian Tomasi and Webster, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Perfect Building Maintenance, the Witkoff Group, New York Community Bank, M&T Bank, Kilroy Architectural Windows, New York's Window Company, Greenberg Traurig, LLP. Additional funding is provided by Ariel Property Advisors, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Bank Leumi USA, Briarwood Organization, Colliers International New York City, Cushman & Wakefield, Customers Bank, DDG Partners, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Eastern Union Funding, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Herrick Feinstein LLP, Hersha Hospitality Trust, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, James Orphanides, Centurion Holdings, Margolin Weiner and Evans LLP, Madison Realty Capital, Massey Knackle Realty Services, Matone Group, Meridian Capital Group, Newmark Grubb Knight Frank, New Banks, People's United Bank, Popular Community Bank, RBS Citizens Bank, SJB Properties, Sterling and Sterling, Stonehenge Partners, Urban American, and These Friends.
Today is the celebration of my 13th season, and I've brought together a number of people to provide their insight on how do they see 2014 in the business world and the real estate community. My guests today include Rob Ivanhoe, the chairman of real estate globally for Greenberg Traurig, Steve Witkoff, the chairman and CEO of the Witkoff Group, Bruce Mosler, chairman of the global brokerage division of Cushman & Wakefield, and last but never not least, Jay Shah, who's the CEO of Hersha Hospitality Trust. So I have the counselor to all of these people. I have somebody who I'm not sure what he does. We were trying to figure out before. It's retail, it's hospitality, it's luxury condominiums. Once in a while, it's office, it's residential rental. He loves Lower Manhattan now. We have the guru on the office market, and then we have the hospitality. So everything's looking nice. You know, I don't have the crystal apple. So is my apple going to be shiny, or is it going to be dull in the next 12 months, Mr. Witkoff? What do you see?
You know, we were talking about this subject at lunch today. I feel pretty strong, feel very positive about New York. And so, elections aside.
Why do you feel so positive about New York? I mean, is it, what's making it good? I mean, Jay was talking to me before that the hospitality business is good, but Miami's really much better in certain ways. The numbers, the ADR is higher, the occupancy is higher. It's closer to the peak. But I still think the hospitality market is great over here, and I believe you have a great feeling about that and so on. But why do you feel so positive today?
You know, it's funny, I got asked that question today at lunch, Jay, and big developer I had lunch with.
Big physically or in size?
No, large-scale developer. And there was a movie store there too, by the way, but that's irrelevant. Right. But he just bought a big site in Miami, and we're active in Miami. And so he was asking me, and he wants to be active in New York. So he said to me, how do you compare? And I don't see the comparison between the two. And I think Miami is a great market to play in, because New York is a substantial market. There are jobs here, and it's a city that is mature, and Miami is a young city. And there doesn't seem to be any jobs down in Miami, and yet there's a strong market.
But you know, you bring that out, and you take Rob. I mean, Rob is headquartered in Manhattan. What's happening in your opinion?
You know, Steve alluded to it, and he's completely right. Miami does not have a fully built-out economy, and it's really a jumping-off point for business in Latin America. And a lot of the influx of money there is really flight capital from Latin America or from Europe, and that there's a tremendous demand to buy apartments for people to either, just put their money in a safe place out of their countries that are in some turmoil, or because people want a place to vacation and they think it's a good investment. It's a currency play, but it's not because the economy itself is fundamentally strong and well-rounded. You know, we're one of the largest office tenants in Miami. The office market is very weak there. We went into a new building, and the building's half empty. The building has 3 or 4 tenants. It's a beautiful new building right on, you know, right off of Biscayne Bay with great views, and the building's about half empty for years.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you, you know, Michael, we were talking about it earlier, and you know, I think it kind of depends on what your horizon for investment is in Miami. I think, you know, as Steve mentioned, and as Rob's mentioning, you know, clearly New York is a far more mature market, a broader array of robust demand generators, primary demand being generated. And I think long term, I've got no issues with New York. I think it's probably still the strongest market around, probably one of the strongest markets in the world from a growth standpoint. And we've seen that across the last 2 decades. When I was talking about Miami, though, we look at Miami from a hospitality market or residential market. Let me just focus on hospitality. Miami's performing at 5 points above prior peak occupancy, 14 points above prior peak, 14% above prior peak rates. And so, as a short-term investor, you know, if you've got a 3 to 5 year hold period, I think there's some strong momentum in the market. But you know, we're longer-term holders, but our portfolio strategies have a little of both.
Where do you see the greatest opportunity in New York? Throughout the city, which market? Do you see Hudson Square? Do we see Times Square where you're building something today? Where is the growth? You're very involved with Hudson Square, not, you know, Hudson Yards.
Yeah.
So where is the greatest growth potential in New York for 2014 or the next couple of years?
For the first time, we're seeing tech now become a major player in employment growth for New York City as a result of significant investment by Mayor Bloomberg over the past many years. So financial services sector remains critical to New York's future, but not the only critical path to success. Tech, education, healthcare, all these sectors have had significant growth in the last several years in New York. Year to date, we've had 15.9 million feet of take-up. That's ahead of last year. We're $14.5 billion in investment sales commitments as against 12 and change last year. We've broken the barrier in terms of surpassed 2007 price levels. Mega deals are back in New York. 650 and 550 are 2 examples, Madison, of some of these mega deals. So there's reason to be optimistic. When you look at vacancy rates, we're at all-time lows in places like Midtown South, which is an emerging market. It's now 65 million feet, and people are willing to pay up to get into that market because they know that there's significant demand that's going on. There's development occurring with Minskoff at 51 Astor. So we're pretty significantly ahead of where we were even this time last year in terms of what's occurring factually in the market. In the go forward, New York's a gateway city. Where do people want to be? With due respect to Miami, Miami's a great place to invest, but it's not a 450 million square foot market.
Do we see more Chinese? Do you see more? I mean, people come to you. You know, they come to you. They come to both of you as advisors and as investors. Who's coming to you today to say, I want to make an investment, or I want to be a partner, or I like this market? Rob, and then
Chinese, absolutely, and I think there are a lot of things driving that. Some of it is just the way their economy is moving and some of the governmental regulation over there. And I think they don't want to be holding the tremendous portfolio of U.S. Treasuries that they've always held, and they want to diversify it into other income-producing U.S. currency other than just Treasuries. And you know, I think that various
you know, a couple of years ago, we
entities
saw
there
a
are
lot
under a
of
lot of
the
pressure to
Kuwaitians,
invest.
Dubai. Do we see them coming back?
I don't know about Dubai per se, but Abu Dhabi, absolutely. I think you could see countries like Saudi Arabia and others from the Middle East becoming more active here in the future.
And we're a safe haven. I mean, where do people want to
absolutely
park
are.
their capital?
Yeah.
In a city
It's
like New
safe,
York.
and
It's sovereign wealth. It's certainly the Chinese, and I think the Chinese want to be here in an equity kind of a way, not just as a lender per se.
Oh, yeah,
And for all the
absolutely,
reasons
exactly.
Rob articulated and more. it's diversification, it's flight money, it's a robust market for them to invest
You
in.
know what's interesting? A number of years ago, when I would do the show, most people would be Manhattan-centric. Today, Brooklyn, Queens, everything. I think the only borough who really hasn't seen it is Staten Island.
Well, I think it depends on who the investor is. I mean, I was working with a Chinese group recently, and they have an American intermediary, and they were looking for deals to invest in. And the mandate that they got from from the Chinese principal was, I want New York City. There was a very interesting deal in Brooklyn that fit all the parameters of what they said they wanted, and then they came back, they went back to the principal, who came back to them and said, I just really want Manhattan. I don't want any of the boroughs.
Yeah,
So I think it depends. I think there are some who would love the boroughs.
Yeah, and what Rob's saying is so true. I think in some cases even a step further. It's beyond even just Manhattan. We find that folks that approach us for assets, they're looking for stuff in, they want Midtown East.
Yeah, some
They
are
want
very
Union
specific.
Square. Like they know
Some
the
are really
submarkets they want to be in.
Sure.
And they're very
Wanna be
clear
here.
and defined. Exactly.
But it's because
Even if they can't be, they want to be there.
Let's look at you. You've been in Lower Manhattan. Then the world changed. No, and now you're in Madison Square Park, and you're in Times Square over there. Which market do you see as the best opportunities today?
We like New York City, Mike. I mean, we really do. Think about what Rob said before. I was just thinking about it. He said two things. The residential market in Miami is on fire, but Greenberg Traurig, large, credible law firm, is one of the largest tenants in all of Miami. I mean, what's the largest tenant in New York City? Certainly not a law firm. That's A, okay?
Right.
And he's the largest tenant in a building that's half vacant, and you could probably buy the building at $250 a square foot. So
That's right.
that's just too big of a disconnect. Huge upsurge in a residential market, but office buildings trading at half of what replacement value is. So it tells you there's really no jobs in that marketplace.
I think you bring up a
Not a
good
lot of
point.
sustainability.
But New York, the intellectual capital of the world, not the United States, the world. Every kid graduating wants to come here and make a go of it today. And the fact of the matter is that it's really not as expensive as the world's most expensive cities, and in my opinion, it's worth it.
That's right.
I was sitting at lunch today, and they were talking about taxes in this town. I said, you don't think it's worth it? You don't take your life in your hands. You walk around any way you want in the city of New York, from the top of Washington Heights down below, and you've got a reasonably good chance of being safe that evening. It's a fabulous city. You don't see that in other cities. Why do all the Latins come to Miami? Why is there a surge?
But after, and I think that's absolutely right. How do we feel about after 12 years of a Bloomberg administration? Are we in for a period of destabilizing that beautiful,
Here's a good point. 12 years ago, Herscher just came to New York.
right? So we think about it a lot.
Right. 12 years ago, you were a REIT who did business suburban.
Right.
Pennsylvania-based. You really didn't come in here. And all of a sudden, how many hotels do you have now? Here.
In Manhattan, we have 14
14
and 17
hotels.
in the.
Are you getting the same discount I am, Steve?
Right.
Wait, at Herscher?
Yeah.
You know, I'm hoping. I'm hoping.
Group discount
Tell you
right
the truth, I'm hoping they have hotels in St. Bart's. So I was
Exactly.
about to ask.
Could you get one for
Because I
us?
can't afford St.
Not enough
Bart's.
corporate demand generators. We don't know.
So, 12 years ago, this little REIT, because we were a much smaller REIT, weren't here. Tell us what's happened over 12 years and why you're so bullish. I mean, you opened up a fantastic hotel in Union Square. Union Square 12 years ago was a
Yeah.
totally different neighborhood.
Yeah.
Today, your hotel opened up. There's a need. There's such a dire need. Midtown South, we didn't have this business. 12 years ago, there was no Midtown South.
Hottest neighborhood in town now.
Okay, nobody would go there. I mean, when the guys from the Nomad spoke
true.
to me, I said, "You're over there on 29th Street and Broadway. What are you?"
And
out
it's
of your
hot
mind?"
as can
I
be
mean, it's
over
hot as
there.
can be.
Yeah.
Well,
So
Restaurant and everything.
I think when we started in New York, we kind of moved into the, into Chelsea, and we're building mid-block hotels, purpose-built, brand new, 3-star limited service hotels. And at the time, the city just didn't have that kind of purpose-built product. And so it made a lot of sense, great foundation for our platform here. But these days, as Bruce was saying, we're looking at these sub-markets that have unique features and characteristics. Union Square, terrific. That Hyatt we opened up, our top corporate accounts include everyone from AOL to Deloitte and Touche to Calvin Klein. You talk about a variety of demand generators. That's a great market, and I think with just with tech really starting to make.
I mean, Union Square, few
make a
people
shine.
realize that the Related apartment house, which is a block away from you,
Yeah.
is one of the highest rent per square foot of all the Related hotel real estate.
I have news for you. Some of the highest rents commercially will be in the Midtown South area in the future. 51 Astor is going to command some of the highest rents. Now, you'll never replace some of the unique New York Midtown assets like GM or 9 West, but on average, you're going to see rents press up in Midtown South much more aggressively
in
than Midtown.
2015, 2017, do we see the Hudson Yards becoming, as Steve Ross perhaps has said, the next Rock Center?
I think it's a matter of timing and how strong the underlying economy is. I was just down at Brookfield yesterday looking at their models of what they're building over on the west side. I've seen, many times what Related's doing. I think it's just a matter of time, and when the demand will permit all of those buildings to be built, I think it's going to be an incredible neighborhood, and I think everything around it.
So
Chelsea is just
I have
gonna
two
get
developers
better.
here. I have more of a hospitality, and I have a mixed-use developer. Are you looking today at the Hudson Yards?
No. Listen, if you couldn't pick better sponsorship than Related to be in charge of the Hudson Yards. So they won the RFP, and it was.
But we're talking about, you had the property that was sold to
We just
McGrath
handled that.
recently. The
McCourt. We just did that,
The Sterling Equities.
Well, let's
deal
remember
over
the
there.
whole size of it. The Hudson Yards development area,
So
as
massive.
envisioned by Bloomberg, is more than 26 million feet of
Massive.
mixed-use
Yeah.
projects. So it's massive, and it will ultimately be the next Rock Center. There's no question about it, because there's no place for major tenants to go to get big floor plates, but the West Side. And we've seen, I think, a gradual gravitation to the West for the last decade. It's where big tenants have wanted to go to get
Do
efficient.
we see, with regard to the planned Midtown rezoning, what's your thoughts?
Well, I think that that's just going to take so long to vacate those buildings and, get all the tenants out, assuming everything does get passed as, more or less contemplated today. I think that's going to be a gradual change. I think it's going to take 20 years or more for that to really have much of an impact.
Who are the tenants, Michael? The good thing is that you can't get construction lending, right, unless you've got a secure
anchor tenant,
project. So
that's right.
hopefully we're not going to see, those crazy boom and bust
see that,
cycles.
hopefully.
But at the end of the day, the large space generators were the financial companies. And, this is my pet peeve. I say it all the time. I was a legislative aide for Senator Javits. You just wouldn't have gotten him to get behind Dodd-Frank, even if you proved to him that every banker out there was a convicted felon. He still wouldn't have sanctioned that legislation. So, because it's anti-New York legislation. It just really is. So I just don't, those are
It's
the big issues.
anti-business for all intents and purposes.
What
But
about,
I
beyond-
think I don't think there's any question in my mind, Bruce. I say maybe an unpopular thing to say, but it's anti-New York legislation. It is. Show me the last time, by the way, you saw Citibank or Goldman Sachs put their hand in the air and say, we're down for 2 million feet. That used to happen in this town. It doesn't happen anymore, and so.
It's all about the
not unless it's
I mean, and I think it's great that Steve got Coach over there, and he's a solid developer. Maybe other developers wouldn't have gotten Coach, but that's not Goldman Sachs for 2 million square feet. So, and I think that affects us all.
No, but look,
is my point. So he's going to do fine with that.
And so will Brookfield. These are two developers that have staying power, that have
yeah.
credibility, that have a balance sheet, and in the end, you will see major tenants shift there because not only the economics compelling, but because order of magnitude what they can build in the mixed use live, work, play, and we haven't really spent
the
a lot of time on
environment
that.
they're
The whole
creating is
environment is
incredible.
It's gonna be amazing.
spectacular.
Yeah.
And it's by the water. And we're going to use our waterfront for the first time.
Absolutely right.
Amazing.
And
we
that's,
never have,
and that's incredible
Yeah.
to use our waterfront.
what about Lower Manhattan? Do we see, are these tenants going to move there? I mean, I hear Hudson Yards for office tenants. I hear Lower Manhattan for office tenants. I hear other places people want to move to the suburbs for office tenants. Who's going to take the rest of the space in Lower Manhattan?
I
I hear tech,
Michael,
but tech doesn't really.
well, you've seen some big commitments, right? You've seen in the publishing and entertainment area, you've seen some big commitments. You're going to continue to see some commitments because this is brand new product. The thing about downtown is that a lot of the product that continues to get converted is better in an alternative use, particularly residential. So as tenants look to the future, new buildings, efficient floor plates, light and air, these are big things that these new buildings can offer, and that's why I think they will succeed. It will take some time, candidly speaking, and the vacancy downtown is going to increase before it decreases. But over time, they will suck up the better tenants because they can do it economically, they can do it with efficiencies, and ultimately the services that you get in these new buildings are unsurpassed.
Yeah, better product, better environment.
Better product.
Look at, Chase's putting One Chase Manhattan Plaza on the market. My guess is somebody's going to buy it who's not going to use it as an office building. So, there's
I mean,
a
if
lot
you want to
of,
look at
Bruce's
visionaries,
point,
take
Or
10
mixed
Ha-
use.
Yeah.
Take 10
or
Hanover.
mixed use.
No, I mean, what you did at 10 Hanover.
yeah.
Well, that's what allowed. I mean, but that was a smart program, right? The
But that was a great
Giuliani's
program because
downtown
we had.
revitalization.
That was.
You
That
see,
is
right now we
brilliant.
don't have the
We don't have
capability
that.
of have the 421Gs, which gives you the tax abatement.
But you'll see. But the New York Times ran a poll today. If you read like the after-election result, yeah, they care about stop and frisk. I mean, I do too, by the way. I want a safe city, but on the other hand, I wouldn't want to be stopped and frisked either if I wasn't doing anything wrong. But what do they really care about? But on stop and frisk, it's sort of split down the middle. Overwhelmingly, New Yorkers, irrespective of their racial profile, cultural profile, what community they live in, they care about jobs.
Absolutely.
That's the poll statistics today.
100%.
There's not a mayor who can get elected who is not going to be compelled to answer that question. And so they're going to answer that question. And that's what that's what makes this town great, that you can make a living in this
but
town.
part of the
You hope
jobs
it's enough of a driver to keep a check on taxes, right? I mean, that's the.
Yeah,
Big
they-
deal.
Look at
Yeah,
the
yeah,
amount of
well-
jobs that have been created due to the hospitality industry. I mean, we've created 18 to 20,000 new rooms. We've had the construction work over there. We have permanent work now.
I think that honestly, I think it's a red herring issue, particularly with de Blasio. I really do. Everybody ran around and accused this guy of being a big tax guy.
Right.
First of all, it's unlikely that tax goes through that he's talking about. I've never met the man, by the way, so it's this. I'm
No,
not.
I haven't either. That's what I'm
But that tax is a targeted tax that wouldn't cost wealthy New Yorkers a lot of money, and it's to help disadvantaged families at the kindergarten level. I'm kind of good with that tax. And I remember, by the way, when Mayor Bloomberg came to the executive committee of the real estate board, Joe, and he said, I remember him say he was asking for more real estate tax, and everybody was hemming and hawing, and he said, it's worth it. This town's worth it. You get what you pay for. And
Right,
so
'cause social stability
now-
is
Right.
essential
and
to
it sort of
have
begs
to
the
do that.
question.
No, no,
and
of
it sort of
course.
begs the question: do you think that anyone is so stupid that they don't look at the statistics? You push someone too far. People understand this. I mean, there is a cost-benefit
There's a fine line.
analysis
That's
that
right.
smart people engage in. So,
People weigh that all the time about what's it costing me to live here, and if it goes above a certain amount with
yeah.
taxes, they.
I mean, Rob, I have a home in Miami, and every time I tell people I have a home in Miami, they say to me, wow, you must have bought the home in Miami because you don't want to pay New York City tax. Except I only spend 75 days a year there, and I bought it on the merits because I like it, and I will always pay New York City tax because I'm loyal to this town because it's given me so much.
Right.
But my point is, would I move down to Miami full time for the tax move? No way. I love this town. I don't want to leave it. It's worth it for me to be here.
I
So
want to spend less than 180 days here in this town.
yeah,
Right.
I love this town. I really do. Can you imagine not being able to do the Stoller show as many times as I've done it?
I know. It'll be devastating.
So
You might have to
Mosler,
move the show to Miami.
so I have
if
a
you
question,
were to do
Brucey.
that.
I still remember like 2007, 2008, there were talk of rents of $150, $200. Rents have not really come back to that. How do you see rents for the 2014 and forward?
Look, I think you have to bifurcate the city. At the end of the day, I think that Midtown rents are probably going to remain relatively flat with a slight increase. Again, it's based on demand. It's based on what's moving south. And Midtown South, I continue to see and feel rents will drive up, disproportionately so. It's the hot market. It will remain the hot market as long as there is space available, quality space available, A space. The minute A space gets absorbed, and it will, you will see tenants push back towards Midtown and downtown. That's undeniable. So I think downtown is going to get a little bit tougher in the near term because we're going to see more product come online. From a vacancy perspective, it will be counted in the vacancy numbers. So near term, downtown increases. But overall, I think demand has been pretty good. As I said, what's been sort of now set off against the financial service sector is industry growth by the following sectors. Healthcare, very, very much of an upside there. Tech, we've surpassed the Silicon Valley in terms of the region in total jobs created in that sector now, and that will continue in the foreseeable
Jay,
future.
where do you see Hersha in 5 years? More hotels here?
I think in the long run we will. Near term maybe a slight pause, but we continue to like Midtown South, particularly Park Avenue South area. I think downtown, after the next year or so, when you start seeing absorption of that office down there, it should be pretty robust.
Yeah, how do you feel about downtown for hospitality?
Well,
I'm actually working on a bunch of downtown hospitality.
There's been a lot of supply down there. There really has. I think, as Bruce was saying, the next couple of years, as we kind of, swallow the, some of the inventory that's coming up, I think downtown should be a reasonably strong market. There's a lot of lifestyle development happening down there. The nature of downtown is changing, and I think that all bodes pretty well for hotels.
And huge infrastructure investment. Let's not
huge.
forget what has been done post 9/11, which, by the way, today we sit on.
So as I celebrate the beginning of my 13th season, and it's the end of Mike's 12 years as mayor, I'd like to thank guys who've been with me over the years and who've done a lot of things great for the city. I'd like to thank Rob, Steve, Bruce, and Jay, and I'll see you next week.